Esther chapter 4, verse 13 to 16. Kung nandun na po, basahin po natin ng sabay-sabay. Then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, "Think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house more than all the Jews. For if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place. But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed. And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom of such a time as this?" Then Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer, "Go, gather all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise. And so will I go into the king, which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish." Ang title po ng aking devotion na to ay, "For such a time as this." For such a time as this. Ngayon po, since na Jeremiah 33 po, ito po ay ang importante po na preaching po na tinagubilin ng aming mahal na pastor ay regarding sa praying. Pero at this time, dadagdagan po na ko ng praying with fasting, na katulad po ng binasa natin sa Esther 4:16. Ngayon ho, bago po tayo pumunta as introduction ko po, pumunta sa aking mensahe, tingnan po natin ang historical context ng Esther. Unang-una, the book of Esther tells the story of how a Jewish girl named Esther becomes queen of Persia and saves her people from plot to destroy them. The story takes place in the Persian Empire during the reign of Ahasuerus, also known as Xerxes I, in the 5th century BC. At the time, the Persian Empire was the abundant world power, ruling a vast territory that stretched from India to Ethiopia. The Jews who had been exiled from their homeland in Israel were living as a minority group within a Persian Empire. The story of Esther takes place after the Babylonian exile, when the Jews were allowed to return to their homeland, and many remained in the lands where they had been exiled, including Persia. Now, 3 points lang ang gusto kong ipunto po dito sa devotion po ito. Una ho ay ang recognizing God's providence. Number 1, recognizing God's providence. God had a purpose for Esther. God has a purpose for Esther's life and circumstances. Nandun po yan sa Esther 4, verse 14. "For if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place. But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed. And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" Ngayon, bilang mga anak ng Diyos, mga mananampalataya, tayo po ay iba sa world po, no? Na kung saan ang sabi po ng Biblia sa Deuteronomy 14:2, "For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God, and the Lord hath chosen thee to be a peculiar people unto himself above all the nations that are upon the earth." So tayo po'y iba sa mga hindi mananampalataya. Tayo ay tinawag ng Biblia na peculiar person. Sometimes in our Ekklesia, you have to felt God was directing you, your path, or using you to different aspect of ministry. Nandun po yan. Ako po ay isang buhay na patotoo kung saan po ako inilagay ng ating mahal na pastor. Nung nandun po ako sa high school kasama ni Preacher Marjo na naglilingkod. Nung meron pong pangangailangan sa gospel class, ako po'y agad-agad na tumugon upang dahil ang isang ex-preacher ay nagkasakit. So, sabi nga rin po ni Tatay Abante, availability is the best ability. Di ba? Ngayon, through our beloved pastor for specific purpose, no? Why don't we pray to God and trust God's providence and seek His guidance in all our decisions, no? Minsan, nasa iyo na ang pinapahiwatig na sa inyo ng Panginoon sa bawat isa kung saan ka may involved. Marami po tayong ministry. Ministry ng prayer para maging prayer warrior. Pati po ang mga senior citizen na yun ang dapat maging ministry. Kaya ang mga kabataan at ang mga katulad namin na ex-preacher ay tinatanaw na magandang ministry ito as a prayer warriors. Sa kabataan din, nandyan po ang BYI na kung saan pwede po kayong mag-Bible study sa iba't ibang eskwelahan. Nasa inyo po ang panahon at ang pagkakataon upang makapaglingkod sa ating Ekklesia. Ang pangalawa po ay ang responding in faith. Number 2, responding in faith. In Esther 4:15 to 16, then Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer, "Go, gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise, and so will I go unto the king, which is not according to the law, and if I perish, I perish." In this verse, Esther decides to fast and pray before approaching the king, knowing that it could cost her life. Have you felt like Esther in your life, in your work? Have you stand on your ground that you will not work on Sunday because that's the Lord's day? Otherwise, it will cause you to lose your job. Minsan meron po tayong mga ganong dapat ipanalangin at itayuan na katulad nga ngayon ng panahon na ngayon ng mga millennial na kung saan pati ang linggo ay pinapapasok ang mga anak ng Diyos. Ngayon, kung ipapaalam nyo sa inyong trabaho o sa inyong boss na kayo isang Baptist at napaka-importante sa atin ang linggo, ipanalangin natin ito na mabago ang pananaw ng inyong kumpanya at ang inyong mga boss. Or during our time when we were Roman Catholic, it will cause us to disinheritance o kaya itatakwil tayo bilang anak. Ako po, personal din ko po, nung ako po'y sinabi ko sa aking ama at aking magulang na ako'y bautismo na sa Baptist, ako po'y itinakwil at ako po'y nanirahan sa aking tiyahin. Ngunit sa panalangin, patuloy na panalangin, natanggap din ako after 5 years ng aking mga magulang. So, yun po ang mga bagay-bagay na dapat i-stand bilang isang mananampalataya. Isa pang classical example ay ang ating beloved Pastor BMA. Sa buhay ng ating beloved pastor, kung hindi siya sumunod sa tawag ng Diyos na magpastor sa Santa Ana, nasan kaya tayo? Wala itong building na to. Wala. Take a step of obedience. Number 3, embracing courage. Number 3, embracing courage. Number 1 is recognizing God's providence. Number 2, responding in faith. And number 3, embracing courage. In Esther 4:16, courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite our fears. When we pray, seek God's strength and courage to face their fears and do what is right even when it is difficult. And for conclusion, now brethren, now that you heard through Esther, recognizing God's providence, how to respond in faith, embracing our courage, will you act hastily to be involved in God's work? Will you toil the toil or walk the walk and talk the talk? The story of Esther is celebrated in the Jewish festival of Purim, which commemorates the deliverance of Jewish people from threat of annihilation, yung pagkaubos. Nandun po yan sa Esther 9, verse 17. Buksan po natin doon, Esther 9, verse 17. On the 13th day of the month, Adar, and on the 14th day of the same rested day, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. On verse 18, but the Jews that were at Shushan assembled together on the 13th day thereof, and on the 14th thereof, and on the 15th day of the same day rested, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. Verse 26, wherefore they called these days Purim, after the name of pure. Therefore, for all the words of this letter and of that which they had seen concerning this matter, and which had come unto them. And verse 28, and that this day should be remembered and kept throughout every generation, every family, every province, and every city, and that these days of Purim should not fail from among the Jews, nor the memorial of them perish from this seed. Tayo po'y tumayo, manalangin. Heavenly Father, help us to recognize your providence and respond in faith and embrace the courage in our daily life. Itong samot dalangin namin sa ngalan ni Jesus. Amen.